Every time I review a Compile Heart game, it tends to begin with a collective critique of their recent output, which has not seen a consistent improvement in quality. Between the absolutely abysmal Death End Request Code Z and Neptunia Riders vs. Dogus, it's challenging to even feel hopeful about what the developer can bring to the table anymore. This general negativity continues to align with the developer's latest game, the third-person shooter roguelite Scarlet Salvation. Admittedly, I was mildly curious about this title due to its fresh shift in genre. Alas, despite the slightly visible panels of promise, Scarlet Salvation has turned out to be yet another Compile Heart release not worth your time.
Who are you?
What a greeting. You're the one who contacted me. Twice, right? I can't explain who I am, but I can say that I'm not who you expect.
So who are you then?
Scarlet Salvation follows the protagonist, Willow Martin, an amnesiac who awakens in a military facility, quickly becoming acquainted with an AI that converses with her as she attempts to escape the machine-filled premises. Along the way, hoping for an incoming rescue, Willow's conversations with the AI unveil more about the current state of the world. To preface what should assuredly be an expected rollout of negativity, the dynamic between Willow and the AI genuinely caught me off guard. Their conversations are shockingly frequent, occurring at length whenever you enter a new floor, and they're mildly entertaining to witness unfold.
Can we continue from before? Could you give me an easy question?
What's 7 times 8?
Are you mocking me?
You're the one who asked for an easy question.
Willow's personality in particular shines amidst these exchanges as she grows endearingly fed up with how the AI responds to her. The AI's matter-of-fact tone also elevates these somewhat captivating talks, bolstered by a well-handled English dub. However, that's about the sole unabashed positive Scarlet Salvation boasts, because the narrative doesn't end up anywhere all that intriguing, and the entirety of the progression loop is miserably monotonous. What makes it all a real shame is that, despite its severe faults, the controls are passably smooth and intuitive. The gameplay involves Willow exploring several series of floors entirely comprised of ceaseless waves of mechanical enemies. Her ways of combating these foes include several types of firearms you can discover, as well as a clunky melee strike that can parry bullets. Movement is also equally crucial to consider, as Willow can perform a dash and jump to avoid incoming enemy projectiles. To Scarlet Salvation's credit, there is some variety in the types of guns you can find, with some embracing select elemental affinities, for example. The guns have their own stats and can be upgraded at specific vendors, enhancing traits such as reloading time. There's also a brief invincibility mode, Onslaught mode, that enhances Willow's attack power. Plus, Willow's movement is swift, which made me pretty hopeful in the opening hour. Unfortunately, none of these potential strengths matter because the floors are horribly designed. Without exaggeration, almost every area in Scarlet Salvation feels identical. The enemies feel the same, the room layouts feel the same, and your ways to move forward all feel the same, all made worse by how unbearably expansive each floor is. Said floors contain far too many rooms and interconnected hallways, with barely anything meaningful contained within. Strangely, and perhaps fortunately, depending on your perspective, you don't even need to kill all the enemies in a room to progress. If you want, you can just ignore the foes in the vicinity, grab any notable treasure you find, and move to the next room. You can slay enemies for the currency needed to upgrade weapons, but every floor contains new guns you can equip that are relatively high level, so you don't necessarily need to bother with upkeep. The rooms themselves can have jumping pads that try to alleviate the tedium of their usual emptiness, leading to higher platforms containing loot. Yet this design loosely ties into another issue, which is the abundance of guns that are found far too often. You tend to find obtainable guns in vast groups, leaving you far too spoiled for choice against enemies that mostly come across as copy-pastes with a unique attack or two. The handful of bosses are decent, I suppose, though they're far from memorable or impactful. Even when considering that the shooting and movement are competent, the dull encounters and obstacles don't give any inherent reason for those facets to be enjoyable. I can't emphasize enough how the seemingly never-ending floors and repetitive room configurations made it come across as a torturous purgatory. After I died for the first time, which only happened because I became too bored to care when I reached the second boss, I honestly didn't have the desire to return to where I was. This may sound like a joke, and it may be when talking about almost any other game, but the only times I got hit were when my painful boredom overpowered every other feeling in my body, causing my focus to drift away. Battles were ludicrously, painfully easy. While you can warp back to checkpoints, they're nowhere near distant enough to feel meaningful. I walked through room after room, forcing myself forward through sheer force of will. The worthwhile boons retained after death are the equipable items that raise stats, letting you brute force events to an extent. Regardless, unless your boredom eclipses your desire to keep going, like with me, I doubt anyone even moderately experienced in shooters will experience a death. I guess it's worth noting that there is a costume break feature, meaning that Willow's attire gradually distorts as she takes more damage. Granted, she is an attractive character, but that was obviously nowhere near enough to encourage me to keep going. I have no idea how I played as much as I did. While I was just a tad hopeful about Scarlet's salvation due to its developer changing up genres from the norm in a new IP, what's here is unacceptable. The abysmally designed choices permeating every facet of progression, from its lack of enemy variety, repetitive room structure, and meager meaning in choice, make this undoubtedly one of Compile Heart's worst games yet. Endearing protagonist and adequate console performance can only do so much in such a harshly dull experience. Noisy Pixel is giving Scarlet's Salvation a 4 out of 10. Thanks for watching. This video is brought to you by our supporters on Patreon. Noisy Pixel is run by a group of gamers providing independent gaming coverage through news, reviews, previews, and more. Check out our Patreon to help support our continued growth and subscribe to keep up with all of our future content.
Noisy Pixel.